This is Gemara Baba Kama Daf Chaf, and we did pull up a little bit short. We're on Yotesa Midbeis, the Mishnah. The Mishnah is on the last narrow line. Hopefully, B'siyata Dishmaya, we will catch up. Says the Mishnah, Kitzad Hashein Mu'edes Lechel. How is a shein amua to eat as a rayula, that which is, I read that like a turkey. One more time. How is a shein amuad? Says the Mishnah, lecholas harayula, to eat that which is fitting for it. Habehema muadis lachol peiros yirakis. An animal is a muad to eat fruits and veggies. Achla ksosai kelim. If it eats clothing or utensils, then that is not normal, and therefore mishalem chatzi nezik. B'medvar Mamurim, continues the Mishnah. When is this damage have to be paid? When it eats something in the property of the nizik. Potter. But if there's a benefit, then mishalemes mashe nehenis. You have to pay for the benefit. Says the Mishnah, how do you calculate such an entity? Keitzad mishalemes mashe nehenis. If the animal eats in the middle of the street, it pays that which it benefit. From the side of the street, pays for that which it damages. So if it's eating in outdoor nor normal areas, then it's paying for the benefit, mashenanis. If it's inside the store or it's on the side of the street, then you pay Ma'aseh Hizika. And Rashi over here starts off the explanation and says, Rashi, let's look at the Rashi at the end of the Mishnah. When do you pay Ma'aseh? And it's lav tashlum me'alyan inhu, as we'll see in the Gemara. But if you for the tzidi arachav, you pay the damage kidin karen tam chazik. Excuse me, karen tam chatzi nezik. And the Gemara, Psiyata Deshmaya, will explain this difference. So this is the Mishnah, and right away we dive straight into the Gemara as the Gemara begins. Tanu Rabbanan, quoting a Braisa, Shein Mu'adis Lachlas Harayula, Ketzad. An animal enters into the property of the nizik, v'achlan eats oichlan haruyuna. It eats that which is fitting for it, v'shasa mashkin haruyala, and it drinks drinks that are fitting for it. What's the din? Mishalim nezik shalem. Pretty normal. An animal damages, eats normal types of foods, that which the animal normal does. Where? In the Rishos HaNizik, as we've seen many times, ubir b'stei acher, then you pay nezik shalem. Continues the Braisa, v'cheir chaya shenechneses. Say v'cheir chaya shenechnes ala chatzar nizik. Says the Braisa, if you have a wild animal that enters into the property of the nizik, v'tarfa, and it rips apart that which it encounters, or behema ve'achla, having word issues tonight. Ve'tarva behema ve'achla, baser rips apart the animal and eats the flesh. Then meshalem nezik shalem, it pays full damage. If we have a cow that eats sa'irin, eats barley, or a chamar, a donkey, shachla karshinim, it eats literally vetch. Or a dog that laps up, that licks up oil. A pig, in all of these cases, mishalmim nezek shalim. Now, the end of this brisa, we don't really necessarily know animal foods, so we could be, the brisa could have gotten away and we might have just read it saying, yeah, these are normal things the animal eats. But at the end over there, when it starts talking about a dog that eats up oil, I think that's the point that most of us say, whoa, 1 second, pause. Is this normal? So let's look at Rashi, and Rashi keys us in for what's going on over here. Says Rashi, a para sha'achla sa'irin, which is meichel chamar. It's eating the wrong animal type food. Or chamar shachla karshinan, which is meichel para. The point here is, it is animal food, but it's the wrong animal food. So it's what we'd call that the animal would eat it. Let's look at Rashi, because Rashi really spells out exactly what's going on over here. Says Rashi, is that normal? That's the word. Says Rashi, since it's regular to feed this in a time of need, in animals starving, ruin bahan, Karinam Bay. It's called the Roi. It's called that it's fit. So now we sort of have a bit of a picture over here. We have animal foods, which are animal food, not for this animal, but you would feed this animal in a pinch. You have nothing else, the animal's starving, you would give it this type of food. Therefore, that says the Brisa, you pay Nezik Shalim. Amar Rav Papa. Continues Rav Papa. We're about 7 lines from the bottom. First one line is Shalem. Says Rababam. Let's try. People have commented they're enjoying the 2 colored highlights. Let's try to continue. Which really just sums up the last thing in the Braisa. Anything which is not orche, but you eat it in a time of need is called eating, meaning you pay nezing shalem. Says Rav Papa, from there I could extrapolate. If we have a shunra, we have a cat that's eating dates, or we have a chamra, a donkey, that's eating beinasa, fish, then says Rav Papa, the same thing would apply. Meshalem nezek shalem, you pay nezek shalem, and says the Gemara, just like Rav Papa just said, 5 lines to the bottom. There was a donkey that ate bread and upasle litzala, and it chewed up the basket. And v'chayave Rav Yehuda l'shalim nezek shalim anahama, on the bread. Even though donkeys don't normally eat bread, but it's Sunday you'd feed the donkey at chak, so you pay nezek shalim. V'aslan the basket chatzi nezek, you pay chatzi nezek. So this Brisa proves that which we just said. Ask the Gemara 1 second. V'amai kim dorachel mechel nama, just like it's normal to feed the animal bread, or cheinami lipesule sala, it's normal to chew in the basket. Says the Gemara, no, because you know what the story was. The animal ate the bread, and only afterwards chewed it. Wasn't at the same time. Says the Gemara, what? Is it normal to feed an animal bread? V'ramini will ask you a stira. If an animal ate bread, ubasar amid v'tavshel on a dish, chatzi nezik. Why? Because these are normal things for animals to eat. They don't sit down and eat dinner with you at your table. My love, behema. Are we not talking about a behema like a donkey or a cow? Says Gemara, no raya, but chaya, a wild animal. Chaya, says the Gemara, basar orchehu. What do you mean? A chaya, wild animal? Of course it's normal to eat meat. Says the Gemara, to mitzvah, you're talking about a deer. Deer do not normally eat meat. V by saying a second teretz, bitivi is roasted meat. A second teretz is bitavia, a deer. V by saying a third teretz, behema, ubibitura, and the food is on the table, and therefore it's not normal for the animal to climb on the table and to eat. And that's the reason why this is considered a case that is not normal. We turn over to Daf Chafam and Aleph. Says the Gemara, another story proving that which we just said. Ahu barcha. There was a barcha. And I know there's a little bit of an unsightly line. There it's better. Ahu barcha, there was a goat. Echaza lift. Let's sort of turn it up. Huma didana. On top of a barrel. What did the goat do? Sarich. It pawed its way, it climbed up top of the barrel, salik acha lift, and ate the turnip, betavri ladina, and it broke the barrel in the process. Chayvei Rava lift, Rava said he's obligated on the turnip. Vadina, and on the barrel, nezek shalem. Full damages. Says the Gemara, my taima. What's the reason? Once it's normal to eat the turnip, or chenami lisaruchay ulemislak. It's normal to climb up, and in the process, of course, the barrel is going to break, and that's the reason why you're paying nezek shalim. That concludes the portion that Rav Papa extrapolated from the end of the Braisa, that as long as something is fed al yidei adchak, it's at some level called orchehu. Continues the Gemara. Amar Ilfa. Continues Ilfa on the 5th line of Chavam and Aleph with a new din. Behema b'rshus harabim. We have an animal in rshus harabim. And what does this animal do? Pashta tzavare va'achla me'al gabe chaverta. And it sticks out its head and it eats from on the back of its friend. What is the din? Says Ilfa chayeves. The animal owner is chayev. My time, says the Gemara, because gabi chaver to chatzar nizik dami. It's considered ki'ilu. We know Shane, as we said in the Mishnah, is obligated to eat if it's in the possession of the nizik. Says the Gemara, so to the back of the animal is at some level considered the property of the nizik. Says the Gemara, let's bring a raya. Let's bring a raya. If there's an animal that has a box, a basket, a bag, slung over its shoulder behind its back, different animals sticks out its neck, and eats from it, it's obligated. So says the Gemara, we see the same raya. You eat from your friend's back, it's called the same thing. Explains the Gemara, no raya. K'tamarava b'kai says that case was talking about where the animal jumped and ate. Hachanami b'kai fetzes. Says the Gemara, where was this din of Rava? V'eichi itmar derava. Tam Rava Ishia behemer rishos harabim. Says Rava Ishia, you have an animal in rishos harabim, and it's eating someone's food. Hachavachla petura. Davachla. If it stands up and eats, chayaves. Says Gemara, Maishla halcha de orcheyu. Danami orcheyu. Says the Gemara, what's the difference? If it's normal for the animal to eat standing, it's normal for the animal to eat while walking. Why is one that you're chayiv, one that you're pater? Says the Gemara, Amar Rava. The reason is b'koi fetzes. The case is where he jumped up to get the food, which is clearly abnormal, and that's why he's chayiv. At what level of chayiv? Says Rashi, of course, chatzi nezik. Continues the Gemara, Ba'i Rav Zira. Rav Zira has a shaila. Misgalgel mahu. What is the halacha? Says Rav Zira, if it is rolling. Now, we don't exactly know what Rav Zira means by misgalgel, which of course is going to be what the Gemara is going to discuss. Says the Gemara, mahu. What's the case? Echidami. Kigoin de kaima amir b'rshus hayachid. The case is referring to where the straw is in Rishus HaYachid, become mitzgalgel, and the straw is rolling, v'asim Rishus HaYachid, Rishus HaRabim. Mai. So what is the halacha? The animal is dragging the straw. Tashema says, bring your raya. Tani Rav Chia. So if we have a load, mixasim ifnin and mixasim achot. Part of the load is inside, part is outside, part is in Rishus HaYachid, part is in Rishus HaRabim. Ochla bifnim eats it inside. Chayav achol b'achutz b'tura. So says the Gemara, what's this case? We think that this case of Rav Chia is ma'amishar brayso of misgalgel. Ma'elav misgalgel. V'asi. And what do we see? We see that in this case, it depends where the animal eats it. Says the Gemara, no raya. Loi. Ema ochla al ma'ashe bifnim. Chayaves al ma'ashe b'chutz b'tura. Says the Gemara, no. It's where it ate. That's what will determine if it's chayav or pater. Iba Yisema, another teretz, ki kamer Rav Chia. Another way of explaining the price of Rav Chia is b'pesila da'asafta, which is a spasta, which is long and narrow items, which will therefore make sense that part of it is inside in the Rishus HaYachid, a part of it is outside in the Rishus HaRabim. And we continue 8 lines from the wide lines, quoting the din in the Mishnah, ach l'ksos, if the animal ate a ksos, ate clothing, then what? And these things are of course not normal. Animals don't normally eat clothing, and therefore what's halacha going to be? It's going to pay chatzi nezik. Says the Gemara, ahai. What is going on in the Mishnah? Amarav, it's going on kulu. It's going on the entire Mishnah. My time. Now the Gemara explains what's going on. Kol mishana, anytime the animal does something not normal, uba acher v'shina boy, and then what happens? Someone else and does another shinoi. We have a shinoi on top of a shinoi. Potter. That's Rav. Shmuel Amar no. Loishanu ala peros v'yirakois. Avoksosu kelim. Chayeves. Then even Rishus HaRabim, the animal is obligated from eating ksos and kelim. So if machlokes Rav and Shmuel, what exactly is going on in the Mishnah? Says the Gemara, the same machlokes Rav and Shmuel is v'chein amar Reish Lakish akulu. V'az Reish Lakish taimei dam Reish Lakish tei paros Rishus HaRabim. Achaz ravutzav, achaz b'alechas, one is squatting, one is walking. Ba'atam alechas b'ravutzav petura. Ravutzav alechas chayeves. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, and Rabbi Yochanan says that Reish Lakish is saying just like Rav. Rav Yochanan, comes along and he says like Shmuel. First, why learn Rav Yochanan lo shal peiros yirakas av ksus kelim chayeves. So suggest the Gemara lemer Rav Yochanan let's say the Reish Lakish. Afilu b'shtei barais. Is there a real machlokes of Yochanan Reish Lakish? Says Gemara loy la'olam islay ksus. He holds of the case of the cows. Says the Gemara, in the case of the ksos, it's going to be different. Why? Because it's normal for the ksos, or their coats, it's normal for people to put it down and leave it there. Avol behema, to leave an animal in the middle of the street. Lav or cheder for Rav Yochanan will not hold that the same din will apply in that case. And now we go into the Seifa of the Mishnah, Vimnenes Mishalemes, which for the duration of the day we're going to discuss what exactly does the Seifa mean. And basically what's going to ensue is trying to figure out how do you calculate damages in a time of abnormal damages. So the Mishnah said that if the animal is nanis, if the animal benefits, you have to pay for that which the animal benefited. Says the Gemara, Vikama, how much? Rabba Amar Demei Amir, Rava Amar Demei Sairim Bizol. Rabba says you have to pay the price of Amir. You have to pay the price of regular straw. And Rava says no, the price of wheat, of barley, which is inexpensive. Again, the animal ate something abnormal, and we're trying to figure out what's going on. How do you quantify what the owner has to pay? Because again, we're talking about Shane eating, but it's in Rosh Hashanah. So how do you figure it out? Says the Gemara, Machlekes Rabba and Rava. Says the Gemara, before we get any deeper, firstly, Tani Kavasei the Rabba, Tani Kavasei the Rava. Tani Kavasei the Rabba, why? Rashbi, Amir Bilvad. You pay the value of the straw. Tani Kavasei the Rava, and that is Misham's Mashanenes. Keitzad, how do you do that? Says the Braisa Achla Kav Oikabayim. We don't say to Shalim Damei and pay the value of that which you ate, cause it's in Rosh Hashanah, which is the abnormal. How much does the owner gain? How do you quantify the gain? Not by that which the animal ate, but rather that which the owner would have given in his animal. Therefore, so if the animal ate something that's bad for the animal, then the owner will be potter. Why? Because the owner is not considered to have gained in such a situation. So that's number one. The Machlekes Rabba and Rav, exactly how do we put a dollar value on this damage of the owner? So says the Gemara, Amrli Rav Chisda l'Rami Bar Chama, says Rav Chisda to Rami Bar Chama the following: Lo yahavis gabon beorta, you were not by us at the night, but chuma and tzchum. Tibayalon, we asked the following fundamental shaila. Mili ma'al yasa, Dibayalon mili ma'al yasa, which we were asked a beautiful question. Amar mai mili ma'al yasa, what's the question? Amar lei, the following question. A fundamental shaila which we're really going to deal with for the duration of the day. Hadar b'chatzer chaviroi shaloi midait. Sarich la'alos l'tzchar ein sarich. If someone lives in his friend's chatzer without his rishos, in English we call this a squatter, do you have to pay or do you not have to pay? Says the Gemara, hechi dami. What's the case? This is a courtyard that's not normally rented out. And a person who's not normally to rent out an item. I didn't gain, and you didn't lose, because you weren't going to rent out this courtyard anyways. I wasn't going to rent out a courtyard for myself anyways. So the fact that I went and lived in your courtyard, I didn't gain, you didn't lose, that can't be the question. Ella says really, the guy does rent out this courtyard, and the government, and I'm going to rent out a courtyard. Says Gemara, is that a hen of chaser? What's the question? I gained, you lost, so of course I have to pay. So concludes the Gemara, and this is just concluding what the shaila is. From here, the Gemara is going to try to prove what the din is. Two lines to the bottom. A courtyard which is not normal to rent out. But so in simple English, this means that I gained, but you didn't lose. You have a house somewhere. You weren't planning on renting it out. It was just sitting there. I say, hey, look at that abandoned house. I want to rent a house. Why pay money? I just go live in your house without asking you permission. So I gained, but you did not lose. How do we don this case? I can tell you, you didn't lose anything. Or you tell more, maybe Mati Amar, the owner, you could say to me, it's true, I wasn't planning on renting it, but Azenis, you gained from living in my house, and therefore you should have to pay me because Lemaisa you gained. So fundamental shayla, Ze nehene, v'ze loy chaser. I gained, you did not lose. How do we don this case? Says the Gemara, Amar Lei, and of course, it's the reason why we bring this down. Chafam and Beis, the top line, as we try to prove this from our Mishnah. Amar Lei Mas Nizani, it is a Mishnah. Hey Mas Nizan, Amar Lei L'chita Shamish. When you do a taiva for me, Li, then I'll tell you the Mishnah. Shakol Sodrei Karach Lei. He folded up his handkerchief. Amar Lei told him the following, our Mishnah. And then, as Mishalem, as Mashanan, as we said in the Mishnah, if there was benefit, you have to pay for the benefit. So the Gemara thinks right now, so too over here, if there was benefit, you got to pay. So I gained by living in your courtyard. So whether you were planning on renting it out or not, I gained, I got to pay for my gain. Amar Rava, 4 lines down, Kama loy chayli, v'loy magrish, gavra demarei. Says Rava, how much you were spared from sickness, the person that this master has helped, CIA, because even though your raya from our Mishnah was ridiculous, it's not dummy, he still accepted it from him. Says the Gemara, says Rava, why? Says Rava, the Mishnah is zenehene. This one gained, and this guy lost. He lost his produce that was left out in the street when my animal ate from it. So I gained, you lost. But in this case of the squatter, in this case of living in someone's house that Rishos, is a case of zenehene, v'zeloi chaser. You did not lose. So what's the raya, says Rava? Continues the Gemara, Vrami Bar Chama, Sosam, Stam Beiros, Bershos Arabim, Afkurim Afkalahu, Stam Beiros are hefker. That's why Rabbi Bar Chama thought there was a raya from our Mishnah. Because when I eat your fruit that's in the middle of the street, your fruit was hefker, and therefore your fruit is considered to be hefker, and that's the reason why it's the same type of case of Zen Nehene v'zeloi chaser. You're not considered to have loss because your stuff is hefker. Says the Gemara, okay, but let's try to bring another raya. Tinan, we learned in the Mishnah, 8 lines down, first line is Hamakif. Hamakif Chavero Mishalaju Chaisa, which is the picture in Rashi, directly next to the Gemara. As you see in Rashi, Ruvain's fields surround the Shimon's field from 3 sides. And Ruvain goes, Vegader as a Rishayna, Vesa Shnia, Vesa Shlish, he puts a fence up on 3 sides. Ein Mechayvin Isai. Then we do not obligate Shimon, the guy on the inside, to help pay Ruvain for the fence that he made. Haravias, but if Ruvain puts up a 4th fence, then yes, then we do indeed obligate Shimon living on the inside to pay for the fence. Says the Gemara, why does Shimon have to pay? You're benefiting, I'm not losing, and still we see that you're chayiv. I'm not losing because I, Reuven, wanted to put up that fence anyways. Lamaisa zenehene, you're gaining because now you, Shimon, your field is fully surrounded. But we see that you, Shimon, have to pay. We see zenehene v'zelo chaser. Chayiv. Says the Gemara, no raya, why not? Shani also damarle ad gamerli kefa yiseira. The reason is because Reuven could tell Shimon, if you weren't here, I would have been okay with the fences on the outside. Only because of you did I have to put up this extra fence, and therefore that's why we're going to obligate you to pay. So Tashima says, let's try a different raya for the same type of case. Amar Rav Yaisi says, Rav Yaisi, Amar Nikif. If Shimon, if the middle guy gets up and does what? And puts up the 4th fence, then he shows that he wants him. He have to pay for the whole thing. The Deuces explains the Gemara, it's only if the Nikif, if Shimon gets up and puts up that fence. But if Reuven does, Bater, he'll be Bater, Shmamina. Zen Henev Zalech Chaser Potter. Similar raya in the flip. Shani Yosef says the Gemara. Tamar Le Lididi Sagili Benatira Bar Zuza. No, the reason is because he says I would have been okay with a small fence, and you're putting up a big fence. That's why I do not want to pay. Tashema continues the Gemara, trying to prove again the shaila of this case of the squatter of Zen Nehene. V'zel Lo Chaser. Tashema Bayis Aliyah Shal Shnayim. We have a house, an upper floor owned by two different people. What happened? Shenaflu. The entire building fell. So both the guy living on the top has lost his house, and the guy living on the bottom has lost his house. Amar Bala Ali Bala Bayis. The guy on top says to the guy on the bottom, live nice to build the bottom. The guy on the bottom says, I'm not interested. Hare Bala Aliyah. The guy on top is allowed to buy bayis, rebuild the bottom, and the Yoshev Ba'an lived there till the bottom guy pays for his expenses. So says the Gemara, what do we see from here? Yitzi Aisav. The bottom guy only has to pay for the Yitzir's expenses. Balabayis. Balabayis. But you do not have to pay for the entire expenses. So says the Gemara, what do you see? Shvana Zelahenev Zelo Chaser. Potter. Zenehene, the bottom guy gained. Zelo Chaser. I didn't lose. Zelo Chaser. And here we see Potter. Says the Gemara, no raya. Why? Because as you could anticipate, the bottom guy, Shani also the base La'aliyah Mishtabed. It's a different case. Our two houses are connected. You're Mishubad to me on top. That's why it's going to be a different din. So says the Gemara, let's flip it. Tashema, Rav Yudam Rav Zad, Darbachat Chaveiroi, Shaloi Midaita. This guy lives in his friend's house without his permission. Sarech Lalois Loischar. You have to pay from him. Shvamina, clear raya from Yehuda, Zen Enev Zolo Chaser. Chayiv. I'm living in your house on the bottom. I got to pay you. Is it clear, simple raya? Zen Nehene. And you didn't lose. Still, I have to pay you. Says the Gemara, no. Shani Yasa Mishim Shachrusa de Ash Yasa. Because over there, Lamaisa, you did lose. You guy in the bottom, it's not called Zeloi Chaser. Why not? Because your house was lived in. When your house is lived in, there's a blackening of the walls. The house loses some of its value. And that's the reason why I'm obligated, the top guy, to pay you. So the Gemara tried numerous rayas. The Gemara has not found any raya for Zenehenev Zelo Chaser. Continues the Gemara, Shalchua Bei Ravami. The yeshiva of Ravami sent the following shayla. Amar v'chima seloi u'ma chasroi. What is the guy that lives in his house, and what has he done from him? U'ma zeikai. And what damage did he do to him? He didn't do anything, and therefore I gained, but you didn't lose. Therefore, they couldn't fathom why you'd have to pay. Rav Chia bar Abba Amar. Rav Chia bar Abba, on the other hand, says, Nisyashev b'davar. Says Rav Chia bar Abba, let's look into it. I don't have a clear raya. Hadashalchua kamid Rav Chia bar Abba. They asked Rav Chia bar Abba again. Amar Rav Chia bar Abba said, Kuli hai shalchli. You keep on asking me. V'azu ilu ashchibi. If I, Rav Chia bar Abba, would have had an answer, Yashkibi taimam, I would have told you, Lo Shachlanu Lilhu. Would I not have told you? So why do you keep on answering the same question? So Rav Chia bar Abba didn't really believe the answer that they wanted to say. So Itzmar, and we conclude, Rav Kahana Amar Rav Yechanan, Einoi tzarech lahalos lo schar. Rav Amar Rav Yechanan, tzarech lahalos lo schar. So we have a raya whether you have to pay. Amar Rav Papa, says Rav Papa, Had Rav Avua, this din of Rav Avua, lav aferishit mal machlala Itzmar. We'll pick it up from here, in which we see the klala that Rav Huna, Rav Papa, learned his din learned his din. Ravu Amar Rav Yechon, learned his din that Tzarech Lahalos Lo Schar. We'll pick up from here tomorrow. B'siyata Dishmaya.